They told you that if you just stayed motivated, you would win. That if you found the right words, the right speech, the right spark, you'd break through every wall. That motivation, this fleeting feeling, this emotional high, was your solution. And so you chased it. You hunted it like a drug. You waited for it, begged for it, tried to manufacture it. But ask yourself, how many moments of greatness were born from waiting? Niccolo Machiavelli once wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved." Why? Because fear, when properly crafted, is reliable. Love is not. And what is motivation if not a softer cousin of love? It warms the spirit, pleases the heart, flatters the ego. But it does not endure. It vanishes at the first sign of fatigue. It abandons you in the cold. The man who builds his empire on motivation is the man who builds on fog. His kingdom will vanish with the sun. But the man who builds on discipline, on commitment carved from stone, he does not wait for the weather to be fair. He moves regardless. You must understand this. Motivation is not your ally. It is a charming liar. It whispers promises it cannot keep. It seduces you with visions of glory, but disappears the moment the work becomes unpleasant. And the work will always become unpleasant. Look around you. See the world not as you wish it to be, but as it is. Who rises? The one who posts quotes and stirs the soul with temporary zeal? Or the one who wakes before the sun, not because he feels like it, but because he does not negotiate with his excuses? Machiavelli observed, "Men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear. Replace love with motivation, and the modern trap becomes clear. You are taught to be driven by inspiration, to seek it, to crave it, to wait for it. But a strategist does not wait. He calculates, he executes, he builds systems immune to emotion. Motivation is a spark, but power, true power, is found in the fire you sustain without it. In the rituals you follow when your body aches, when your mind revolts, when the world mocks your ambition. The person who needs motivation to act will always be ruled by the person who does not. Let that sink in. The man who needs to feel like doing the work will never outlast the man who simply does the work. Because power is not forged in your highs. It is built in the monotony, in the hours that no one sees, in the silence, in the repetition, in the absence of applause. Modern culture has sold you a weakness, a beautiful one. It says, find your passion, wait until it feels right, be inspired. But this is not how empires are built. This is how dreams rot, slowly, silently, buried under the weight of your own hesitation. A lion does not wake up motivated to hunt. He simply hunts. He has no need for a reason. Survival is reason enough. And you, if you truly wish to dominate, to shape your life rather than be shaped by it, you must stop relying on mood and start enforcing motion. There is no power in feeling good. There is only power in moving forward, especially when you don't. I have watched men rise from nothing, not because they had more talent or more motivation, but because they kept showing up, because they made their actions a law. They did not allow feelings to interfere with function. The fox is cunning, the lion is feared. But the man who acts without needing to feel is invincible. He is not at the mercy of his emotions. He does not need to scroll through clips of someone else yelling over dramatic music to get started. He does not wait for the stars to align. He aligns himself, and in doing so, he becomes a force. Let us return to Machiavelli. He did not teach idealism, he taught results. He did not care if you felt noble, he asked, did it work? And here is what works: routine, repetition, relentless discipline, not motivation, because the man who waits for motivation is easily broken. One insult, one failure, one sleepless night, and he folds. But the man who is governed by principle, by structure, by rules, he does not break. Even when no one is watching, he cannot be stopped. He cannot even be understood by most. He does not post quotes, he becomes the quote. You see, motivation is cheap, it is everywhere. Scroll your phone and you'll find endless slogans, endless speeches, endless highs. But where does it go? What does it build? Nothing, if not anchored to action. The weak wait to feel right. The wise know that right action makes you feel strong after. So I ask you, who are you without motivation? Strip it away, remove the music, remove the caffeine, remove the external triggers. What remains? If your answer is nothing, you are a slave, not to a master, but to a feeling. And feelings are liars. What you must cultivate is something deeper, a code, a system, a rhythm of action that does not ask permission from your mood, because your goals do not care how you feel. The world does not pause for your inspiration, and your enemies, they hope you keep waiting. They hope you keep needing to feel good before you act, because as long as you do, they will keep winning. So what replaces motivation? Structure. If motivation is a gust of wind, structure is the sail already positioned, ready to catch it, but also strong enough to move even when the air is still. Most people confuse motion with momentum. They get moving when they feel good, then stop when the rush fades. But you, if you are to be dangerous, must move even when the world is still. Even when your bones are heavy and your spirit resists. Machiavelli understood human nature better than most. He knew that men are unreliable, that feelings fluctuate, that loyalty shifts with the weather, and so he counseled leaders not to rely on the goodwill of others, but on systems, fear, leverage, and consistency. Apply that now, not to nations, but to your own life. You cannot rule your mind if you have no laws. Think of the most powerful men in history. Did they rely on motivation to conquer? Did Caesar wait to feel inspired before crossing the Rubicon? Did Napoleon require a motivational coach before storming Europe? No. They acted, they calculated, they trained themselves to move without needing a spark, and that is the difference between those who play at power and those who seize it. The person who builds structure, rituals, habits, environments, rules, makes it easier to act than to avoid. He removes choice from the equation. He weaponizes discipline, not the discipline that shouts and flails, the quiet kind, the kind that wakes up at 4:30 because it is law, that trains while others sleep, that writes while others whine, that builds while others scroll. Structure is not glamorous, it is not exciting, it is often dull, repetitive, grueling, and that is why it works, because the weak will not follow it, because the average mind will resist it, and because those who do build it, rule. Let me show you a truth most fear to admit. The man who needs motivation will always be a subject in another man's system. Your job, your school, your platform, your economy, your news, all of these are systems, and most people drift inside them, reacting, consuming, obeying, waiting for a feeling to push them toward action. But the moment you build your own system, your own rules, your own code, your own rituals, you begin to separate from the herd. You move from ruled to ruler. Consider this. The common man wakes when the alarm says so. He eats when he's told. He works as ordered. He scrolls until tired. He tells himself he will rise when he feels ready. And so years pass, dreams fade, potential rusts. But the strategist, he writes his laws in steel. He sets his wake time not based on comfort, but on outcome. He eats for fuel, not for feeling. He does not wait for the muse to strike. He summons it through repetition, through showing up, through creating even when the page is blank. Motivation is for artists without deadlines, for warriors without battles, for men without discipline. And here's the truth. Most people don't want discipline. They say they do. They watch videos. They highlight books. They admire those who have it. But deep down they fear it. Because discipline demands the death of who they are now. It demands sacrifice. Not once, daily, hourly, in the dark. But the fox survives because it adapts. And the lion endures because it commits. You must be both. The cunning to shape systems, the force to follow them. And when you fall off course, and you will, it is not motivation that brings you back. It is your structure, your rule book, your rituals that anchor you when the storm comes. Your mornings, your checklists, your repeated mantras, your deliberate acts. Machiavelli would call this virtue, not virtue as in goodness, but power, will, the active force of a man who shapes reality rather than reacts to it. Virtue is not passive, it is not soft, it is the lion's claw hidden beneath the velvet. And if you are to rise, you must become its embodiment. This is not poetic theory, this is power in practice. Look at your life. What systems govern you? What hour do you rise? What do you eat? Where does your attention go? What do you allow? What do you repeat? The answers are not hidden in your motivation, but in your mechanics. Build structure, or be built by someone else's. You cannot control the world, but you can control your schedule. You can control your inputs. You can control your training, your rituals, your rules. Start small. Fixed wake time, non-negotiable work block, daily reflection. One act repeated, not once, but daily. Do not wait to feel ready. Start before you're convinced. Act before you believe. Build before you are praised. Because no empire waits for its ruler to be motivated. It is ruled by those who move, who act, who execute, regardless. You will be tempted to abandon this path. The world will not support your discipline. It will mock it. It will seduce you with softness. It will sell you comfort disguised as self-care. It will whisper, rest. You've earned it before you've built anything worth resting from. And when you push forward, without applause, without motivation, it will not understand you. That is proof you are doing something rare. Understand this. Motivation makes you likable. Discipline makes you dangerous. The man who shows up every day without needing praise is feared in silence. He doesn't brag. He doesn't announce. He simply becomes undeniable. And that is the most powerful form of dominance, earned, not demanded. Machiavelli knew this well. In The Prince, he warned leaders never to trust in fortune alone. It is better, he wrote, to be impetuous than cautious, because fortune is a woman, and if you wish to master her, you must strike her and beat her down. Aggressive? Yes, but beneath the provocation lies a truth. The world yields not to those who wait, but to those who impose their will relentlessly, unapologetically. Relying on motivation is caution. Building discipline is force. One fades, the other shapes history. You must build rituals that defy the weakness in you. Wake before your doubts, train before your excuses, write before your distractions arrive. There is a savage joy in doing what others won't, in becoming what others can't. But you will not find it through videos or speeches or fleeting sparks of energy. You will find it in the repetition, the quiet, the self-imposed war. And it is a war. Make no mistake. Every day you are attacked, not with violence, but with softness, with convenience, with comfort, with noise, endless noise. Motivation wants to be entertained. Discipline wants results. The disciplined man chooses silence. He works without the music. He lifts without the camera. He builds without the crowd. He knows that power is built in shadows long before it is revealed in light. When others sleep, he sharpens. When others quit, he endures. When others wait, he moves. And still, he is not praised. Not yet, because discipline is always invisible first. It is only visible in what it builds. In the body, reshaped, the skills sharpened, the empire formed, the man transformed. So you must fall in love with invisibility, fall in love with being underestimated, fall in love with not being understood, because when you don't need recognition, no one can control you. When you don't need approval, no one can shame you. And when you don't need motivation, nothing can stop you. Most people are addicted to being seen. You must become addicted to execution. This is the paradox. The less you seek the spotlight, the more powerful you become in its absence. The quieter you move, the more dangerous your next step becomes. The more boring your routine, the more extraordinary the outcome. There is a phrase Machiavelli would have understood well, even if he never wrote it. Let them think you are just like them, until it's too late. That is the art of invisible dominance. You are not a performer, you are an architect. And every action you take without needing motivation is a brick in the foundation of something unshakable. Even when you are tired, especially when you are tired, even when it is dark, especially when it is dark. Because every time you move without the spark, you build something they cannot replicate. They may copy your moves, but they will never copy your resolve. They will never understand your silence. They will never endure your routine. They will call you obsessed. Let them. They will call you cold. Let them. They will say you've changed. Good. That was the point. Because the old you, the one who waited to feel good before doing what needed to be done, that version must die. Machiavelli believed cruelty, when used wisely, could be a tool. So be cruel with your old self. Be ruthless with your excuses. Be merciless with your distractions. Because the world is, and if you do not dominate yourself, it will dominate you. This is your edge. Not motivation, but movement. Not feeling good, but doing what must be done. Not hoping, but creating inevitability through relentless execution. And now, I will tell you something no one else dares to say. You do not need to be inspired. You need to be undeniable. And that is built, not born. Every day, every repetition, every act of quiet discipline, each one a vote toward becoming unstoppable. You are not chasing motivation anymore. You are becoming something far more powerful. You are becoming inevitable. Now we begin to separate you from the herd completely. Because by now something in you is changing, shifting, shedding. You've begun to see the trap, the pretty lie that says motivation is a strategy, that if you feel enough, you will do enough, that if you are inspired enough, you will rise. But those who build empires do not wait to feel. They command themselves. They do not hope to become. They decide. And once a decision is made, all feelings are made irrelevant. Machiavelli would call this the triumph of necessity over desire. The disciplined man does not act when he desires. He acts because he must. And because he acts from necessity, not emotion, he becomes reliable, ruthless, respected, feared. The one who needs motivation is chaotic. You never know who he'll be tomorrow. The one who follows discipline predictable as sunrise, relentless as gravity. Now ask yourself, who do kings trust? Who do generals call on? Who do enemies fear? The predictable one, the one who does not bend with the weather, the one who, even in doubt, moves, even in silence, prepares, even in weakness, attacks. Because there is no room for softness at the highest level. There is only room for movement, and movement requires nothing but command, internal command, self-rule. If you are ruled by moods, you are ruled by others. You can be manipulated, provoked, delayed, controlled. But the man who has trained himself to move cold, steady, without applause, he is the rarest thing in the modern world, untouchable. They will test you. They will ask why you're so distant, why you keep such a strict schedule, why you never miss a workout, a meeting, a task, why you disappear into your routine. It's because you are no longer seduced by the world's weakness. You no longer take orders from the voice in your head that says, "Not today." You silenced it and replaced it with law, your own law. And every man who ever ruled, every Caesar, every strategist, every silent assassin had this in common: they had rules they did not break, even in private, especially in private. Let the world keep chasing the next burst of motivation. Let them keep searching for a song to hype them up, a quote to push them forward, a video to remind them who they are. You already know who you are, because you built him, brick by brick. You no longer need reminders. You're too busy becoming the reminder. You no longer need cheering. You're too focused on executing. You no longer need to be told. You are now the one who tells. And this transition from needing to be moved to becoming the mover is where everything changes. This is the moment you stop being a follower, not just in business, not just in training, but in life. Because now you are not governed by how you feel. You are governed by what you said you would do. And that is where your power comes from. Not from talent, not from genius, but from consistency under pressure, silence under noise, precision under fatigue. This is what builds kings. And kings do not wait for perfect days. They create powerful moments in imperfect ones. Understand this: the world is watching, always. Your enemies, your rivals, your future self. And they do not care how motivated you are. They care what you do, because what you do is who you are. Your habits reveal your destiny. And every skipped rep, every avoided task, every broken promise to yourself, it all adds up, not in isolation, but in momentum. Machiavelli would say, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command. So command yourself, or you will be commanded." Discipline is not a punishment, it is protection against regret, against weakness, against being average. It is the most powerful shield you will ever carry. You may not feel like waking early, but you do it. You may not feel like speaking with strength, but you do it. You may not feel like taking the step, but you take it anyway. That is how legacies are built. Not with inspiration, but with internal orders. You refuse to disobey. You are not your emotions. You are your enforcement of decisions, because the difference between the common man and the conqueror is not what they feel. It's what they do with those feelings. And the disciplined man, he feels them all. The fear, the doubt, the fatigue, but he acts anyway, without delay, without need for external fire, because he is already burning. The fire is inside him now, not in flashes, not in bursts, but in a quiet, endless burn that no one sees but everyone will feel. Let others rely on energy. You rely on systems. Let others rely on feelings. You rely on law. Let others chase moods. You chase mastery, because what you are becoming is rare, and rare men are not built by chance. They are built by choice, repeated. And now, we enter the phase most never reach. The phase where the novelty wears off, the noise fades, the world stops clapping. You've posted the routine, you've shared the plan, you've made the declarations. And now? Now it's just you. You and the work. No more applause, no more hype, no more borrowed energy from strangers who never cared. This is the part where the weak quit, because motivation got them started, but discipline demands they continue. And that, Machiavelli would say, is the real test of any ruler, not whether he can rise, but whether he can sustain, not whether he can impress the crowd, but whether he can outlast the chaos. Because this world is chaos, and the ones who win are not the loudest, not the most excited, not even the most talented, but the most stable. You must become unshakable, unmoved by trends, unbothered by moods, unstoppable in silence. That means your habits must become sacred, untouchable, non-negotiable. Your morning routine, ritual. Your focused work, ritual. Your physical training, ritual. And not because you enjoy it every time, but because it is who you are now. Do you understand the gravity of that? You are not doing habits anymore. You are the habit. And that transformation from behavior to identity is where real power begins, because now no one has to remind you, no one has to motivate you, no one has to hold you accountable. You are governed from within. And that, Machiavelli would argue, is the rarest kind of ruler, the one who rules himself first. Most people are governed by the external. They wait for feedback, they need validation, they adjust based on attention. But you are done with that. You have buried the version of you that needed to be seen. Now you are focused on becoming undeniable, whether anyone is watching or not. That is how men of consequence are made, and you will feel it. In the way you walk, the way you enter a room, the way you sit at the table. Not loud, not desperate, but with weight. Because the man who does the work, especially when no one watches, carries power others can't name but feel. And that power does not come from genetics, or gifts, or praise. It comes from hours, years, quiet commitment that compounds while others distract themselves. The world offers you endless escape, but you no longer run. Because every time you escape discomfort, you abandon growth. Every skipped session, weakness reinforced. Every broken routine, integrity eroded. Every excuse you tolerate, a betrayal of who you swore to become. But the disciplined man does not tolerate betrayal, even from himself, especially from himself. He is not perfect, but he is precise. He does not wait to feel ready. He prepares so that readiness is irrelevant. He is not guided by whim, he is guided by will. And here's the truth no one wants to hear. The world respects the man who suffers in silence more than the one who celebrates loudly, because suffering for your future is sacred, and few are willing to do it. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must learn how not to be good, not as cruelty, but as realism. Because sometimes the path to power requires cold judgment, steady pressure, calculated silence. So apply this to yourself. You will not always feel inspired. Good. Do the work anyway. You will not always feel strong. Good. Lift anyway. You will not always feel clear. Good. Execute anyway. This is how you earn respect from yourself. And self-respect is the seed of real confidence. Not the kind that shouts, the kind that radiates. You don't need to say you're serious. It's obvious. You don't need to prove anything. Your consistency already has. Let others beg for motivation. Let them search for shortcuts. Let them glamorize their goals. You're too busy building. You no longer chase motivation. You chase mastery. You no longer seek the feeling. You've become the force. And every day, you put one more brick in the foundation, even when it's boring, especially when it's boring. Because boring is where dynasties are built, and what they call boring, you now call sacred. That's the shift. That's the difference. That's the beginning of your legend. And now, you've reached the final threshold. Most will never come this far, not because they can't, but because they won't, because the silence gets too loud, because the work gets too real, because without the thrill of motivation, they feel empty. But you've stayed, not out of hype, not out of excitement, but out of hunger, precision, purpose. That makes you rare. And in this final phase, you realize something the world has hidden from you your entire life. You were never supposed to feel ready. Because readiness is not a feeling, it is a decision. And you made it. You chose the path of quiet force, of consistent action, of sovereign discipline. And now you must walk it alone, not forever, but long enough to build something unshakable. Because in this phase, there is no map, no crowd, no cheer, only the echo of your footsteps as you move deeper into territory. Few have the courage to enter. Mastery of self. This is where the world tries to pull you back. It will call you extreme, obsessive, cold. It will say, you've changed, let it speak. Because change is the point. You are no longer the one who needs momentum. You are the momentum. You are no longer the one who waits to be chosen. You choose yourself. And that choice comes with a cost, loneliness, misunderstanding, sacrifice, but also freedom, strength, power, the kind that can't be taken from you. Because it was never given to you. You earned it. Through the boring days, through the silent work, through the nights no one saw. This is what Machiavelli meant when he spoke of virtue, the strength to shape the world rather than be shaped by it, not through inspiration, but through will, through force, through discipline. Because kings are not born. They are built, brick by brick, battle by battle, day by day, and so are you. Now let me leave you with this. If you've made it this far, it's because a part of you is already ready for this new path. A part of you has already understood that being admired means nothing if to gain that admiration, you must abandon yourself. True self-respect begins the moment you act from principle, not permission. The moment you keep your word, even when no one is watching. The moment you stay your course, even when it feels like no one understands. Now tell me in the comments, are you ready to be misunderstood, rejected, even hated in the name of your inner freedom? Are you ready to enforce your values, even if it cost you comfort? If this message struck something in you, if it clicked, if it made you pause, write in the comments, I lead myself. Let's see how many here are prepared to make that transition from the motivated to the disciplined, from the follower to the force. And remember, watch the next video, not for hype, but because the next lesson is deeper, sharper, much more important than you think. See you there.